Hi there guys, it's time for Trash O'Clock. I'm Mina and welcome to join me on my journey to make my hometown free from trash. I have Asperger and mental illness. I love to clean and I don't think that trash belongs in the nature. This video is going to be about a man called Mats Israelsson, also known as Fet-Mats. And the road that I'm walking in this video, I choose it because it's going to lead to this man's grave, and you will see that by the end of the video. But before I start the story, the tragic, very tragic and sad story about Mats Israelsson, I'm just going to say that I filmed this video in August last year, and that's quite some time ago. This is February the following year, and I have explained in an earlier video why it took this long for me to narrate this video and upload it, but I'm not going to repeat myself. So what I was going to say is that this was the first time that I was cleaning and filming on my own. I had a slow, relaxing and thorough cleaning. I really stopped at every tiny little thing I saw, every cigarette butt. So I was really thorough with this cleaning. But I usually have my boyfriend with me, and that's because it's actually kind of scary to do this on my own. I am always afraid that people will comment and be mean, stare at me or whatever. So when my boyfriend is with me, it feels safe. Because even though if someone would say something mean or stare, I have my boyfriend there. He can maybe say something back to that mean person, or at least tell me that, they didn't mean it, or they are stupid, don't listen to them, or, that he can sort of defend me, because I can't defend myself, at least from my own thoughts. I've had, as I said, mental illness, and I've had that for a very long time, since I was a teenager. I've had mental illness for a longer time than some of the ones that view this video. In March 1st, less than a month, I will be 40. So I don't feel like it. I'm not going to talk about that I have, oh my god, I'm turning 40, I'm so old, and things like that. It's my age. I can't do anything about it. Everybody age one day at a time, an hour at a time, a second at a time, and that's it. But yeah, I was just saying that I've had mental illness since the 1990s, and some of my viewers weren't even born then. That was pretty much it. But enough of me, because I'm going to talk about this man, as I said, Mats Israelsson. And he lived quite a long time ago, so there aren't really any sources when it comes to when he was born and his family and such. So there's very little that we know about him when it comes to his childhood and family and such. But there are some sources from after he died that at least can give some answers. So what do we know about this man? Well, he was born around 1656, according to living relatives. As I said, there are no sources, but around 1656. So yeah, it was quite a long time ago. Mats was called Fet-Mats and also Stor-Mats. And fet in English is fat. But in this case, it was actually not meaning that he was fat. He was not. It was more like that he was rather big, strong, and muscular. That was the real meaning of his name. He was also called Stor-Mats. Stor is translated into big. So, yeah, his body was big, but not fat big. It was more muscles and such. So we know what kind of body type he had, at least. He was born in a little village called Boda in Svärdsjö parish in Sweden. And Boda is a very, very, very little village. Not far away from where I am. I am in Falun. So it's, I don't know how far, a couple of miles maybe, not that long as I said. And a funny side note is that I have ancestors that were born and lived in Boda. I am most likely not a relative to Mats that I'm talking about, but it's not impossible either. I actually don't know, and I don't really know if it is possible for me to find that out. There seems to be some relatives to Mats and his siblings that has done some research on the family. So maybe they have a family tree that I could look at and see, oh, are we relatives or not? But I'm not going to look that up at now. Another thing that we know is that his father's name was Israel. And we do know that because at this time in Sweden there was this tradition called patronymic, I think you pronounce it. This simply means that the last name of a person is based on the father's given name. If you were a boy, you were called the father's name and then added son, translated to son. And if you were a daughter, you had the father's name and added dotter, translated daughter. So if you had a father named Lars, you were called Larsson as if you were a boy, or Larsdotter if you were a daughter. So Larsson simply means son of Lars, and Larsdotter means daughter of Lars. So in this case, Mats were called Israelsson. He was the son of Israel. So we do know that. And according to some sources, it seems that Mats' father died when Mats was young. And it also seems that Mats at least had a sister and two brothers. One of them was called Anders, who still have descendants living in Boda. So that's pretty much what we know. So Mats seemed to have been the youngest of the siblings, and Anders seemed to have been the oldest, meaning that he was the one that was supposed to take over the farm after his father. But Mats, he had no place to take over. Only one of the sons could live at that farm. So instead, what to do to earn money, to earn a living? Well, Mats needed to work, so he decided to go to Falun and work in the mines, because Falun had, or still have, a mine. It's not a mine that's being used now, but at one time it was really, really huge, and Falun was, I think, the second biggest city in the whole Sweden for a time in history. The only town that was bigger was Stockholm, but Falun had so many people working at the mines that it was the second biggest. So Mats, he went there to simply work. He met a woman called Margareta Olsdotter. So she was the daughter of Olof. And Mats, Margareta, they fell in love and decided to get married. They were betrothed and were just a couple of weeks away from getting married. And this was in 1677. But then something terrible happened. Mats disappeared without a trace. This must have been hard for Margareta. She was waiting for him to come home. She was not knowing what had happened. The wedding was off. And then she eventually needed to move on. She got married to someone else. But she would actually find out the truth eventually. On the 2nd December of 1719, there were some miners that was going through the mines to they will go looking for new places to work on, or old places to start working on again. They came to a water-filled shaft, and when that got opened, the water flooded out, and with the water was the dead body of a miner. So both legs of the dead man, they were amputated and missing. But when it comes to clothes, the hands, face, and the rest of the body, there were no signs of decay. So it seemed like this man had recently died. And this became like a big mystery because there was no person reported missing. So people were like, who is this man? They took the body to ground level. And then something strange happened. Pretty much as soon as the body was above ground level, it started to dry. It became hard as wood, hard as stone. For a while, no one knew who the dead man was. But after a while, 2 men came out and said that we do recognize him. This is Mats Israelsson. He's been gone for a very long time. How can he look like this? But the saddest part was when an old woman came out. She approached the body. She was worn out, filled with wrinkles. And she burst out, "It's my Mats." That old woman was Mats' betrothed woman, Margareta Olsdotter. Now she was standing there, looking at her old loved one's body. She old and worn, but he was still as young as the last time she had seen him. There was an investigation to find out who the man really was and what had happened. According to this report, Mats had gone down into the mines all of his own. Margareta told that this happened in March 1677. Another man said that Mats disappeared autumn 1676, the year before. Most sources on the internet today says 1677. This year even is the one that says on his gravestone. So they went with her story about when he disappeared, even though it still remains a mystery and it is unknown. So anyhow, what did happen was when he went down to the mines and worked, one of the walls collapsed. And since no one knew where he were, no one went looking for him. The shaft where he was trapped was filled with water, and this water was rich in vitriol, a substance now commonly known as the pesticide copper sulfate. And it was this vitriol that preserved his body as well as his clothes for all those years. Margareta wanted Mats to be buried at once, but the word had spread and Mats had become a sensation. And instead of being buried, he was being put on display. Not just for a year or two, but for as long as 30 years. By that time, Margareta was long gone, and she never got to be able to see him underground where he belonged. Instead, he became more like a museum item. People came from all around Sweden, but also from other countries, to take a look at him. A French man came there in 1737. He wasn't impressed and described that all he saw was a black, dried up and deformed body that smelled really bad. And that was what happened to the body after being on display for all those years. Without the vitriol protecting his body, he started to decay. His flesh became hard and black. He dried up and the body was being deformed. And of course it smelled bad. After a while, his body had decayed so much that they finally decided to let him rest. So, December 21st, 1749, he was being buried under the floor in the Stora Kopparberg church in Falun. He was there for a while, at least. But later his body was moved to the graveyard. So he was now on his second resting place. But the story does not end here. For some reason, his body was moved 50 years later, and the place he'd ended up at was not the best possible. He ended up in the attic of the church, his body being put in a tiny wooden box. And there he was forgotten. in 1900, the attic was being renovated. And when that happened, they found the body of Mats Israelsson. And this would have been a great time to be like, oh, darn it, now we should bury him, like for good. But no, he was once again being put on display. And this time it was inside the church. And it was absolutely absurd. At this time there was hardly anything left of him. It was pretty much just a skeleton. And that was being inside of this beautiful church. And now you are probably thinking, when did all of this end for this poor man? First, he was being a museum item, decaying in front of people going there, just looking at him as an item. Then he ended up in the church. He went to the graveyard. Not just one place, but a second place in the graveyard. Then the attic. And then once again on display. Well, they did decide to do something about it in 1925. But it took them until November 18th in 1930 when they finally put him in his last resting place. And this is the place where we are heading towards. And a couple of years later, they also added a gravestone. And on this stone it says, åt minne av gruvdrängen Mats Israelsson, vilken omkom under arbete i Falu gruva 1677. Translated to, in memory of the miner Mats Israelsson, who died while working at the Falun mine in 1677. It feels a little absurd talking about this story, about this man, everything that happened to him after he was dead, and at the same time watching me cleaning. But then again, by picking up all of this trash, it's a part of honoring everything that is, everything that will be, and everything that has been. Mats' life was short. They think that he didn't even lived until his 30s. They think that he died between the age of 18 or 25. He was a young, strong man about to get married. But it was all taken away from him because of this dangerous work that mining was and still is. But it was so much more dangerous at this time. A lot of men died in the mines, not just here in Falun, but in so many other places. There were a lot of collapses and people get stuck. Some died instantly and some didn't. The faith of Mats, it's just really sad. But in one way, picking up this trash and making this city a better place, it just fills me with happiness, to be honest. I think it's sad that the world is taking this direction. I'm not saying that people used to be perfect. Really no, but slowly the world is getting more and more destroyed. And one of the reasons is that people don't know what a trash bin is. I'm not picking up trash just because it's ugly. I do it because this is things that destroy the earth. It hurts people. It can harm, animals and children playing here. It's so bad. So I just hope that people will understand how everything is connected. Everything that has been has something to do with what we are now, what we are doing now. And all the choices we are doing today is going to affect the future. We need to realize, we just need to realize that everything that's being said about the environment, it's true. Pollution is real. All of these things are real, and we need to take it serious. And we all need to think about what we can do. What can I do for the environment? This is one of the things that I think that I can do. Like here, picking up these tiny pieces of glass. I don't want animals or humans being hurt by these pieces of glass. Why should it be there? It's dangerous, it's bad. At this point, I can see the church where Mats was buried. And you will soon see it too. First, you're just going to see some of my legs. Well, I'm trying to gather as much glass as possible. I really, really wanted to get everything up. I think I missed a piece. But the sun was hard on my eyes, so I didn't see it all. And this beautiful church that you will see is called Stora Kopparbergs kyrka. Kyrka means church. It was built in the 15th century, but some parts of it's actually from the 40th century. So this is the oldest building in Falun. The church did not, however, look like this in the beginning. Parts have been added pretty much all the time through history. But some parts of it is very, very old. And even those a lot of it has been added with time. It's still like hundreds and hundreds of years old. And that is just amazing to live so close to such an old, important building. Now I'm coming to a place here where I found a lot of stuff to pick up, as you can see. And once again, I am standing very close to the church that has a graveyard. People that have lived, loved, dreamed, worked, just like you and me. Do they really deserve to have surroundings that looks like this? Do we, regular people of today, deserve to take a walk and not seeing the beauty, but instead seeing all of this? I love the nature, and I think that there should be as much as possible. And I'm not just talking about grass, I'm talking about like it is here, where you don't cut it, you don't cut the trees, you don't make it a plain, boring environment, I think is the best word. Instead, there's wildlife. There's a place here that is being loved by insects and birds and other kinds of animals. We need all of that. We don't just need to make it look good for us humans. We need it to be the best, the absolutely best for every kind of life on Earth. Because if we don't have insects, we don't have anything. Actually, it's all that important. So create this kind of wildlife wherever you can. If you have a garden, plant that kinds of flowers and bushes and whatever that insects love. Don't just have grass and like one tree. Have wildlife, have flowers, have all of this. When the leaves fall on the ground, just let some of it be. Gardens and such it's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be filled with life. That's the kind of world that most people want. We don't want this, an old magazine laying there. We are now getting close to the end of the video. Like many other YouTubers, I ask for you to comment this video and subscribe to my channel. I have 7 subscribers at the moment and would love to have more. If there is something I can do better with my videos to make them more entertaining or whatever, just tell me and I see what I can do. But in the end, these videos are meant to be relaxing, just me walking and talking, as well as sharing my cleaning and thoughts with you. And there you could see the church for a little while, but I will show more of it because, of course, I'm going to show you this old beautiful church. And just have a few pieces left here to pick up before I'm done. So if you have the possibility, do everything you can for the environment. Do it for the ones that have been. Do it for yourself and the ones that live here, right here and now. Do it for your children and grandchildren and all the generations to come. Yeah, you can see here, it's an absolutely beautiful church. Here in Falun, Sweden. Just look at that. I've been inside and I think that it's quite often open to just go inside and look at it. It's really beautiful inside as well as out. And now we're getting close to Mats Israelsson's grave. And with that, I want to thank you if you have been watching this until the end. Please, please comment. Please subscribe to my channel. Share and all of those kinds of things. Help me grow. If you want to mention me on other channels as well. I do these kinds of cleaning videos. I do these videos to tell people what they can do for the environment. Not just picking up the trash outside, but also cleaning indoor. I've started to make those kinds of videos. But now, it's time for Mats and to show him some respect.